What you are about to see is the original foundational EFT course, which has been left largely untouched because it has been such a highly effective teaching tool for professionals and lay people alike. I am, however, going to augment those original videos by appearing from time to time in this studio setting to add certain emphasis to things that will help you out, as well as to add some refinements that we've learned over time. Unlike conventional methods where we're taught and conditioned to learn that you need a specific remedy for a specific ailment, for example, you need Tylenol for a headache or Prozac for depression, etc. EFT, by contrast, uses the very same procedure for everything. By everything I mean just about every physical and emotional ailment known to mankind. Now, what does vary, however, is the approach that you use. Sometimes, for example, maybe somebody has a headache and you apply EFT and the headache vanishes. That happens with great regularity. And so the job is done, great. Other times, you may apply EFT for that headache and nothing happens. You hit a wall. That does not mean that EFT didn't work, even though it appears that way. What that really means is you need to back up and use a different approach. You need to find core issues. You need to find something else that is in the way here. For example, I have cases had people with headaches that didn't budge with EFT that I found had anger issues or other emotional issues. Maybe it was anger at a spouse or anger at something in the workplace or something like that. And we would deal with that anger. And once we resolve that with EFT, then the headache just vanishes. Okay? So that we use a different approach in it. So approaches are very important, and that's why in these videotapes we show you so many people, both from the audio tapes and the videotapes, over and over and over again. We use approaches to get to all these. So I show you as many approaches as we can, both on the EFT course as well as all of our other tape sets that you might want to investigate beyond this course. We're showing you approaches. So that's what's really important to do. Now, see, what some people do, I found over time, is they make a mistake in the way they approach this. They will look at all these videotapes and say, oh, well, I don't have that ailment there, but I have this one over here, so I won't watch that one. I'll watch this video instead. The idea being, I don't have that problem, therefore nothing there is going to help me. See, what we're showing you here is approaches. So if, for example, you were not in the Vietnam War, you may say to yourself, well, that tape on the Vietnam veterans might be a good one, but I wasn't in the war, therefore it doesn't apply to me. That's not so. The approaches we use with our Vietnam veterans are just as useful for people with not just war trauma, but rape trauma, for example, or accident trauma, or grief. It's useful sometimes for phobias and all kinds of other ailments people that may have. So what we're teaching you here is approaches. And so that's what you need to study here. Look at all the different approaches, and that's where you're going to start getting the art of delivery and the more creativity, and that's where you're going to be able to take this whole process towards mastery. Please note that even though there are many hours of instructions on the audios and videos that are included with the EFT course, you can get started right away. You need only read the EFT manual, which, by the way, you need to read before you see any of these videos. But you read the EFT manual and watch this first video, and you'll have enough skills under your belt to be able to apply EFT effectively, albeit in a beginner's way, to yourself, friends, clients, and so on. All the rest of the videos and the audios in this EFT course, as well as the videos in our other EFT training courses, are designed to give you refinements to the process and improve your results. Now, there are two other things I recommend that you do prior to seeing these videos. One of those is to go to our website and download the frequently asked questions section there and study that, print it out, understand what's in there. The other is to go to our website and download the tutorial, print it out, study it, and so on. Once you have studied those items, you'll be given a certain perspective that will allow you to get even more out of the videos you're about to see. Welcome to the videotape portion of the Emotional Freedom Techniques course, which we often call EFT. My name is Gary Craig, and my associate is
Adrienne Falley.
And the purpose of at least this portion of the videotape series is to acquaint you visually with all the tapping points and procedures that are behind the basic recipe, so that you will be able to memorize it just that much more easily. This segment actually augments the manual, and we are assuming in this that you have already read the manual.
If you have not, please stop this videotape right now and go and read the manual before coming back to it, because we're going to be using some phrases that we're assuming you're familiar with from reading the manual. So you need to do that.
Sure. I want to spend a moment first, before we get into the meat of the tapping, just by reacquainting you with the central idea behind all this, kind of like a foundation for what's about to unfold in front of you. And that is, I want to go to the discovery statement you read about in the manual, which states, the cause of all negative emotions is a disruption in the body's energy system. What that means is, every time you have any kind of a negative emotion, what's really happening is that there's literally a change, a disruption, if you will, in the energy flow which flows throughout the body. It's literally like a zzz that goes on in that system, and that's what you feel. And by doing the tapping procedures that you've already learned some in the manual, and you're going to get more of shortly, you straighten that out and in a fashion neutralize the negative emotions. In fact, they just kind of fade almost like magic.
Yes, you know, you will notice this disruption in your energy system, perhaps by a physical discomfort. You may have a pain in your stomach, you may have shallow breathing, some physical form will probably take place.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a general feeling of depression, for example. It could be the anxiety you feel when you crave, let's say, a cigarette or some addictive substance. It could be the anger that you feel. All of that, all the feelings that you may have, are really a disruption in the body's energy system. Straighten that out, and you don't have the emotion that's been limiting to you up to this point.
Right.
In this next section that you're about to see, we're going to cover just some general points before we actually do the tapping. So we'll see in a minute. Okay, in this section we're going to cover some general points about the tapping process itself. You might have some questions about it, for example, like which hand do you use, etc. Which hand do you use?
All right, we'll start off by, I'm going to suggest you use your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, I'm going to use my right hand. If you're left-handed, use your left hand. Purely for the purpose that it's easier to do it that way, and we want to make things easy.
You could use either hand if you wanted to.
Right, either one, but we suggest your dominant hand.
Yeah.
We also suggest that you'll use 2 fingers of whichever hand you're using, and we recommend your index finger and your middle finger. And the reason we say 2 fingers is because you can cover a larger area when you're tapping.
Yeah, instead of, like, there's a fairly precise point right here. If you just tap with 1 finger like that, you know, you're probably going to hit it. But if you tap with 2 fingers, you just simply cover a little bigger place.
Right.
And I think it's probably easy to, or appropriate to mention here, that you'll never need to tap, roughly 7 times every time you do this. Like you would tap 7 times here, approximately 7 times here, 7 times here, and so on it goes. And the reason for that is 7 times is usually enough tapping, you know, to get the energy meridian that addresses straightened out. In the process, as you know, you'll be using a reminder phrase.
Right.
And that reminder phrase can somehow detract from your ability to count. So I want to point out to you, it's not critical that you tap exactly 7 times. You'll be doing something like this. Let's say you're working on a traumatic memory, and you'd be saying like, this accident. And it's kind of hard to actually count 7 times every time. So get this sense as you do this, and it's easy to do. But you're doing about 7 times. If you only tap 5 times,
that's okay.
If you tap 8 or 9 or 11 times, you know, that's okay as well.
It's a very forgiving process.
You just want to get an idea of about 7 times, and that does it.
And you can tap on either side of your body. You can go down the right side or the left side, or you can skip around. A lot of times when we're tapping, I'll be tapping on my eyebrow. I'll go over here under my eye. I might use under the arm this way. So you can skip around your body. Do it whatever is most comfortable for you.
Sure. To just expand on that, quite often when I do it, I will, since I'm right-handed, use my right hand. I'll do the right side, here above my face, and then this is kind of under the, there's only one side to that,
That's right.
here. But then I'll do the right collarbone, but then I'll reach clear over here and do the other side of my body. I could do this side if I wanted to, and then I'm on my left hand. So it doesn't really matter which side you're using. You just want to make sure you use the point on the particular, whatever side you choose, but the particular point on that side that is important. Let me also mention that you can tap on both sides of the body simultaneously if you wish, and if you have both hands free. Doesn't really hurt anything, and in some cases it might be a little more thorough. And that's kind of it for the kind of foundation, or the kind of the general ideas you need to know about the tapping process. Next we're going to take the basic recipe and we're going to separate into its basic parts and treat them one at a time. And the next one's coming up.
Good. Let's go.
Okay, now we're going to develop for you the first part of the basic recipe, which is known as the setup. And that, as you may recall, is a way to take care of any interfering blockages that may be in the energy system that have to be taken care of and gotten out of the way before the rest of the basic recipe is allowed to work. And basically there's a concept behind it which I want to develop first, and there's really two parts to that. One part is you either rub a sore spot or you tap what we call the karate chop, and I'll discuss those in a minute. But along with those is an important concept, because there's an affirmation that is necessary to say. And the affirmation we're going to suggest you use goes as follows. Even though I have this blank, whatever it is, which could be this craving for this cigarette or this fear of whatever, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now, you do that while you either rub the sore spot or do the karate chop spot. But you will notice when you hear the audio tapes and see other portions of the videotapes that we don't always use exactly those words. And Adrienne, I think, has some other things that she uses she'll share with you, but I want to mention first to you, if I can, the concept of it. What you're really doing with this affirmation is you are acknowledging verbally the fact that this problem, whatever it is, exists, and you're accepting yourself for it. And that has the effect of taking these interfering blockages, which sometimes are in the way, and dissolving them. But there are other ways to say it,
yes,
which uses the same concept. So
right.
What else do we use?
Same concept. However, you'll hear some verbiage that is, I deeply and profoundly accept myself, even though I have this problem.
Yes.
I love and accept myself and forgive myself, even though I have this challenge. So that's just some examples. You can say it many different ways. Sometimes we'll just say, I accept myself, even though I have this problem.
Yes.
And all of those have the same concept behind them.
Right.
And that is, we are acknowledging a problem and accepting ourselves even though we have it.
We found in some cases that some people have a difficult time saying accept themselves. They resist saying that. Sometimes even get tears over it. In a case like that, two possibilities. One of those is, they've just given you a big item to investigate with EFT. Behind that I don't accept myself posture of theirs are a lot of specific events that you can address with EFT and get results. So you can do a great service to that person by moving in that direction. The other possibility is if you want to stay on whatever issue you're dealing with at the moment, you don't want to go off into the I accept myself type thing. One thing you might want to do instead of having them say I accept myself even though so on, is just have them say, even though I have this whatever problem, I'm open to the possibility that I can accept myself.
We're giving you this memorized one, even though I have this blank, I deeply and completely accept myself, just to give you a standard one to use. And if you use that all the time, it would be fine. One thing is interesting, though, when you see us do this on stage and in other things you'll see on these videotapes, and when you hear it on the audio tape, you will notice people tend to say it routinely. Even though I have this problem, I accept myself, or something like that. Okay? And it tends to work, even though it is said routinely. It tends to work even though people don't even believe what they're saying. Okay?
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
really?
But it does tend to work because what you're really doing is you're verbalizing something, and it does tend to get into your system because the mere fact that you're verbalizing it. However, it is advisable that you say it with emphasis, because remember, this piece of it, this setup, must be done properly, or the rest of the process is going to be handicapped.
Right.
So, better to say, I accept myself excuse me, even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Better to do it that way than to do it rotely and routinely, even though the routine way typically
It does work. I mean, we've had it with
typically will
people.
work. But we want to give you the best opportunity for it. Now, what I want to do now is I want to show you where this, what we call the sore spot is, and you need to follow along with me as well as where this karate chop spot is. But let's start with the sore spot. If you would, if I could have the camera kind of zero in here, you know, at the base of my throat. If you will take the forefinger of, in my case, my dominant hand, my right hand, and place it at the base of your throat, about where a man would knot his tie, and poke in there a bit, you'll find it's kind of a soft spot in there. And you're also, if you'll notice, right at the top of your breastbone, there's kind of a U right there. So just kind of feel that, if you would. And from there, once you've located that spot, go down about 3 inches. And now you can go to your right or left from there, but I'm going to go to my left, because I'm used to doing it that way. Go over to my left about 3 inches. Okay, and now I'm in the upper left-hand portion of my chest. Now, within about a 2-inch radius of that spot, I'm going to start poking in until I find a, there it is, a sore spot. And the reason it's sore is this is lymphatic congestion that occurs. And when you rub that, it sort of breaks that up, and it is a little bit sore. And so what you need to do is locate that, and you rub that while you give this affirmation. Even though I have this blank, this craving for a cigarette, this fear, this whatever, I deeply and completely accept myself. And you do that 3 times. Repeat it, repeat it, and repeat it. So that's one way to do it. Find that sore spot, and repeat the affirmation 3 times. The other way to do it, which is not quite as effective, but it doesn't hurt, and it's much easier to teach on stage, is to tap what we call the karate chop point. Now I'll show you where that is. It is that part of your either hand, I'm using my non-dominant hand, my left hand in this case, which is between the top of your wrist and the base of your baby finger. It's that fleshy spot right there that you would do a karate chop with if you were to do a karate chop. And take 2 fingers of the other hand, and we just tap there continuously while we say, even though I have this blank, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Gary, I'd like to point out
Sure.
here that the reason that you would perhaps use this instead of this is if you had some physical limitation
That's
here.
right.
If you had an injury to your shoulder or the chest area where you might cause some harm by pressing on it, then you definitely do need to use this one. And this has been very effective using the karate chop
Yeah.
point.
It's almost as good. The one using the sore spot is a little more effective. It lasts a little bit longer sometimes, but it's not a major big deal. It's just preferable. And especially if you're going to help someone else with something, you might be able to teach them this a little faster than you do that. But our recommendation is, and the way we're teaching this course, is to rub the sore spot, even though you'll see us do it other ways as you see the audio tapes and videotapes as we go
Good.
through. But I think that takes care of for the setup.
Yes.
You know, and we're now ready for the sequence, and we'll see you in a moment.
Good. Next, we're going to show you the part of the basic recipe known as the sequence. I'll be pointing out the points on your body to be that you'll be tapping. Please tap along with me so that you'll become very comfortable with the tapping points and the whole procedure, because you'll be doing it over and over again.
And one of the things, by the way, you might want to notice on this whole thing is designed so it becomes really easy to memorize. And that is, each of the points she shows you, it goes in a path which is down the body. And each like the point here is, this is the second point, is below on the body. The first point, which is here, and each subsequent point is below the point before it. So that makes it that much easier, I should say, to memorize. So,
Good, thank you. That does help you to memorize it, thinking of it going down your body. So I'll go ahead and start showing you the points. Now remember, find these points with me, touch them, tap them on your body so that you become comfortable and familiar with it. The first point is going to be the beginning of your eyebrow. So just take your finger and put it right at the beginning of your eyebrow. Let's tap that a few times so that you become comfortable with the tapping process. Now tap firm enough so that you can feel it, but be sure not to do it too hard. We don't want you to hurt yourself. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is going to be the outside of your eye. We have a bone right on the outside of the eye. That's the proper point there. Just put your finger on it. If you're back here on your temple, that's the wrong point. That's too far back. Just get right up there on that outside bone and tap that a few times. Good. The next point that I'm going to point out is going to be under the eye. It's on that bone right under your eye. So if you're looking straight ahead, it's about 1 inch below your pupil. Take 2 fingers and let's tap on that point. That's called under the eye. Good. The next point is going to be actually under the nose. So if you take your finger and put it on that area, which is actually between your upper lip and the beginning of your nose. You have that small area there. That's under the nose. Tap that a few times. Good. Next point is, we call it the chin point, but actually it's not on your chin. It's between your chin and your lower lip. You have a small indentation there. That's called the chin area. That's what we're referring to. So let's tap that a few times. Good. The next point is the collarbone. Take your index finger, put it right there at the base of your throat. You can actually feel that U-shape, the beginning of your breastbone there. Go down approximately 1 inch, and you go either to the right or left 1 inch. I'm going to go to the right 1 inch. And I'm right there on my collarbone, and you can feel that bone there. And Gary, you had something that I think that you wanted to add there.
Yeah, actually, it's a bit of a misnomer, actually, because when we call it the collarbone point, most people think of the collarbone as this clavicle, this part that runs right along here, and you can feel easily with your fingertip. This point is the intersection of the clavicle, the collarbone, and the sternum and the first rib. But that's a mouthful to say,
yeah.
All 3 of those things. So we just call it the collarbone point, understanding that it's really the beginning of the collarbone that we're dealing with.
Right. So here's your collarbone point. So let's tap a few times there. Okay, the next point that I'm going to show you is under the arm. And I'm going to turn, you're going to use the side of your body. So first put your fingers into your armpit. You go down approximately 4 inches. For a woman, it's right in the middle of the strap of your bra there. For a man, it would be even with the nipple, and that's called under the arm. So that's on the side of your body.
Let me give you one more tapping point to use, just for thoroughness. There's another point called the liver point, which you can use that is, for the male, it's just below the nipple, about 1 inch below the nipple, right there, either side. And for the ladies, it's the equivalent place, but it's where the underskin of the breast meets the chest wall. It's the equivalent place here. The only reason we did not include that point to begin with was because, you know, for ladies, that can be socially awkward if they're tapping, let's say, in a restaurant or a public place, you know. So we just chose not to use it. It's not that we were slighting you on something. You will learn later on here that as a practical matter, in most cases, we don't use the entire basic recipe that we're showing you. We only use half the points. And you'll see more about that as these videos progress. But I wanted to show it to you here just so you'd have it for thoroughness. You will not see it at all in any of these tapes or any of these videos as they unfold. That's because we're showing you the original course because it was so effective. I'm just giving you this extra one to add if you choose to do so.
Okay, now we're going to go to the points that are on your hand. And I'm going to hold my hand up here so that you can see this clearly. The first point is actually on the side of your thumb, and I'm going to turn my thumb so that you can see it as best as I can allow here. The side of the thumb, even with the base of the nail, that's the point that I want you on. I'm going to use 2 fingers and tap that area. Now you'll notice in different filmings and such that Gary actually uses 1 finger to do the tapping. Gary, why don't you demonstrate that on my thumb?
I'll typically do this, and I only point this out to you because I'll do that on stage, and you'll see it in some of the videotape sections that are coming up. You can do it either way. Adrian is correct when she says use 2 fingers to cover a larger point, a larger area. I do it with 1 just because it works, and for me it's easier to do. So it's a reasonably forgiving system, and
Right.
So we have 2 different ways to do that.
Right. So the next finger that I'll go to is my index finger. Now again, I'm going to be on the side of my index finger, even with the base of my nail, and I'm using the side of my index finger that's closest to the thumb. And I'll tap the side of that index finger. The next finger is the middle finger, and the side of the middle finger, even with the base of the nail. Now it's the side of the finger that's closest to your index finger. And I'll tap that. The only finger that we don't use on your hand is your ring finger. So we'll go right to my baby finger here.
Well, Adrian indicated that we could skip the ring finger, you know, when doing the basic recipe. And while she's correct, I want to tell you why, just so you know. A little bit later on in this process, we're going to show you what's called the gamut point, which happens to be, you know, right about here. You'll see it more specifically later. That is on the same meridian as the ring finger. So we don't, you know, you could include the ring finger if you wanted to, and it'd be right there, by the way, the same parallel place it would be on the other fingers that she was showing you. It's on the same meridian, so we're going to tap it another time. That's why we don't use it. But if you wanted to use it, you could just go ahead and use that ring finger point, you know, as you do the basic recipe.
The side of the baby finger, even with the base of the nail, and it's the side of the baby finger that's closest to the to the ring finger. Good. Now the very last point that I'm going to show you, and Gary has previously shown or demonstrated this, is the karate chop point. Now this karate chop point is the area on the side of your hand, the outside of your hand, that's between the beginning of your baby finger and the wrist bone there. You have that fatty area of your hand is where you would do a karate chop, and you just tap that outside of your hand, and that's it.
Okay, that's the sequence. I would add to that the fact that the sequence in the basic recipe is done twice.
Yes.
It's kind of like a sandwich. In the middle of that sandwich is the 9 gamut procedure. So, but the sequence is done identically, both before and after the 9 gamut. And the 9 gamut, which is the center of that sandwich, is what's coming up next.
Good.
The next part of the basic procedure is called the 9 gamut procedure, and that is the part between the 2 sequences. It's the center of the sandwich, if you will. And it is probably the most bizarre looking of all of these processes, and it needs to be explained as to why it is the way it is and how it's used and why it's used. As it turns out, this procedure kind of fine-tunes the brain, so the whole process works a little more fluidly. And you'll notice in this process, as you read in the manual, you need to roll your eyes around and put your eyes in different places. And what that does is since the eyes are connected to the brain by various nerves, every time you move your eyes, you are stimulating certain parts of the brain. And you're doing this all the time while you're tapping a particular point, which is called the gamut point, and I'll describe that to you shortly. You also hum and you count, and the reason you hum when you count is because when you hum, you activate the creative part of your brain, that is the right-hand side of your brain. And when you count, that's the more digital part, or the left-hand side of your brain. So you'll hum and you count, and then you hum again for good measure, all the time, you know, tapping on that particular point.
And I'd like to point out here that when you hum, please hum a tune, not just a mundane hum.
That's right.
So you have to actually have a tune so that activates the creativity
Yes,
part of your brain.
And we use Happy Birthday, as a matter of
We
fact.
do.
But if you want to use Yankee Doodle Dandy or the national anthem, or
Whatever is your favorite song.
One little wrinkle here I wanted to point out to you regards using the song Happy Birthday, you know, for the hum a tune part of the 9 gamut procedure. A Happy Birthday for most people, you know, it's a nice, neutral kind of song. But for some people, they've had some very horrendous, not so pleasant birthdays, and the mere singing of Happy Birthday or humming of Happy Birthday, you know, triggers that for them. Now, if it does trigger that for them, you're right on to, you know, an important event for them to collapse and to resolve with EFT. But if they are having that difficulty, you know, at the moment for whatever you're working on, you might want to have them hum some different tune. You know, that's just a pointer you might be able to use.
Let me put those pieces together for a moment so you'll know how to do that. And I want to first point out what we call the gamut point. And by the way, the reason we call it the gamut point is because while you tap it, which happens to be right here, you do a gamut of things while that's being tapped continuously. But here's where it is. You make a fist, in my case with my non-dominant hand, which is my left hand, although I could use either hand. And you'll notice we have these large knuckles that are sticking up as a result of my making a fist. I take the forefinger of my dominant hand, my right hand, and I place it between that base knuckle at the base of my baby finger and the base knuckle at the base of my ring finger. I put it right in between those, and then I go back towards my wrist about a half an inch, and there's a little soft spot in there. And that's called the gamut point, and that's what you will tap continuously while you do 9 different things. And that's why this whole procedure is called the 9 gamut procedure. Okay? So with that in mind, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tap this continuously while I show you where these various what these various things are you do with your eyes and your humming and counting and so on. So the first thing you do is you simply leave your head steady and close your eyes. So do that with me. And then you open your eyes. And incidentally, at each of these points, I'm tapping on the gamut spot, and in reality, you'll tap about 7 times at each of these positions, although I'm doing that far more right now as I'm describing it to you. And the next thing you do is you will leave your head steady, that's important, and you will move your eyes hard down to the right, like that. And then hard down to the left, like that. And then you'll roll them around in a circle, like you're looking around the numbers of a clock. And then you'll roll them in the other direction, like you're looking around the numbers of a clock. And then you'll do this humming, in my case, happy birthday. And you'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll hum again for good measure.
Good.
And that's basically how it works. All the time you're tapping about 7 times on this gamut spot, you know, as you do all those.
Gary, why don't we, at this point, have you do it in very slow motion, and I will narrate it so that they can see the process.
Sure. I think what would be valuable there is if she narrates it and I do it, and you do it at home right along with me in slow motion the first time. And then maybe I'll do a little faster when we're done with that.
Right.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the gamut point and tap it continuously.
So now remember, be tapping your gamut point, tap right along with Gary. Now have your eyes closed, open, down hard right, left, have them go in a circle clockwise, counterclockwise, hum, count,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
hum. Good.
That's basically it. I would point out something about that is, you know, we're showing you to go hard down right first and then hard down left. You could go hard down left first and hard down right second if you wanted to, and you could roll your eyes in one direction first and the other direction. It doesn't matter which way, just as long as you do both sets is all.
Right. How about let's have you go through it at a normal pace, what we normally would do it.
Yeah, actually when you get this all memorized, I basically rip right through it.
Well,
okay?
let's not do it too quickly,
Okay.
but please do it along with Gary so that you're getting used to doing this at a quicker pace.
Yeah, you may want to watch me first do it and then roll the tape back and do it
Right.
again. But here's how it goes, okay? One, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Good. It's as easy as that.
So that covers the 9 gamut, and we're going to put it all together next.
Good.
Okay, now we're going to put the whole thing together, and Adrienne is going to take the process and do it from beginning to end. She's going to assume, however, a kind of a generic problem, because we don't know really what you'd be working on, whether it's an addictive craving for some kind of a substance or you know, a traumatic memory you want to deal with, or fear or anger, or whatever the issue may be. So she's just going to call it problem. So when she does the setup and the affirmation, she'll just talk about a problem, etc., and the reminder phrase will incorporate a problem. So why don't you just go ahead and just do it, and at home, if you would just follow right along with her and get used to the cadence of all this and doing it, you'll embed it, you know, that much more easily one more time. So go ahead.
Good. Okay. So we'll get going with this. The first thing that we're going to do is the setup. So please remember, do this with me. We'll rub your sore spot and say, even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now we're going to do the sequence, the tapping. This problem, 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 this problem. Now the 9 gamut. Close your eyes, open, down hard right, left, thinking of this problem, circle, the other way, hum, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hum, Now we finish it off again with the sequence. This problem, 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 this problem.
Okay, very good.
That's it.
You will notice that when she did her tapping, it was about seven taps each time. Remember, she doesn't have to exactly count. You just got a sense for doing 7. I happened to count them a little bit, and I noticed a couple of them were 8s, and one was a 6, and that kind of thing. So, but that's how it goes. We've already covered that point of it. So what you'll need to do is take whatever issue is important to you, and use a phrase for that within the affirmation that's part of the setup. Even though I have this, I deeply and completely accept myself, and then a reminder phrase that also incorporates it. And you can use that to address any problem you want. Now, one of the things that happens here is sometimes you will deal with an issue, and let's say you start with an intensity of 8 on whatever it is. And one round of this, you'll go down to 0. That does happen with some frequency, so expect that to happen. I mean, it will happen with more than just a rare occasion. But often you will go from an 8, let's say, to a 4, and you'll stop just part way down. And what happens there quite often is the interfering blockages, which the setup procedure is designed to take care of, reintroduces itself into the process, and it stops you from getting, important phrase, any better still. It actually stops your progress. So that means the subsequent rounds that you do of EFT, which we've covered in the manual, needs to have a slightly different set of verbiage around the affirmation and the reminder phrase. And Adrian's going to take another round for you, and it's going to be assuming we have this interfering blockage. We're going to assume you've gotten from an 8 to a 4, let's say, and not all the way down. So all subsequent rounds, for the same issue would take the form she's talking about here. So the setup affirmation changes from what you had to what?
What I'm going to say now is, even though I still have some of this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself.
And if I can add to that, what we're really doing here is acknowledging the fact that the subconscious mind is very literal.
Yes.
Because we're working on the rest of the issue, the rest of the problem.
Correct.
Okay, and that's why it's designed to be the way it's designed. And then this one says the remaining problem, which again is focusing on the rest of the issue. So go ahead.
All right, so follow along with me for this process also. We're going to do the setup again. Even though I still have some of this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still have some of this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still have some of this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now we'll go through the sequence again, saying remaining problem, 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 remaining problem. Now the 9 gamut. And you'll be thinking remaining problem. Close your eyes, open your eyes, down hard right, down hard left, circle, thinking of remaining problem, the other direction, hum, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hum, Now we do the sequence again. This will finish it off. Remaining problem, 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 remaining problem. That's it.
This subsequent round of EFT, when necessary, only needs to be applied typically once or twice, maybe 3 times to cover just about every issue that we address with it. This simple 1-minute memorized procedure, once you own it and really have it internalized and memorized, it's a lifetime gift for you to be able to use for just about any emotional or physical issue you could imagine.
Of course, I'd like to point out here, Gary, that we don't fix everything for everyone.
Yeah,
this is the real world.
It's the real world. You will, to emphasize that, you will notice in the audio tapes and videotapes that have all these case histories on them, and they go on almost endlessly, so you'll get a wide view of and a good feel for how all this process works. Not everybody just gets to 0. I mean, we're not trying to show you magic here. We're trying to show you a very workable, very powerful, very stunning tool, but it does not do everything for everyone. You will find some people on all these case histories that don't go to 0. They go to partway to 0. Some don't make much headway at all, but that's kind of a rare situation. That's particularly rare with pain, for example,
yes.
Something like that. So what we want to emphasize to you is while this process is powerful, you may need to be very persistent, and there may be some issues that you deal with that you're not going to make much headway with, and you may need to take the advanced course that we offer
yes.
and so on, because there's some details that go beyond the scope of what we're teaching
right.
here. One more point I want to make before we close this session out, and that has to do with this. When you experience the audio tapes and the videotapes, you will notice that Adrian and I have people do some tapping, which might seem to be different than the version of EFT that you're learning here. Mm-hmm. It is not different. What it really is a shortcut version of the more thorough version that you're learning here.
Yes.
Adrian and I have been doing this for years. We have very advanced training in this, and we're often doing this on stage with people, where time sometimes is important. Sometimes we're dealing with people where they have a very critical issue, and the more efficient we can do it, the better. And so when you overhear us on the audio tapes or see us on the videotapes, we are not having in our own mind, gee, this is going to show up on the EFT course.
Right,
we want to be
right.
efficient at the time.
Right.
And so you will see us, instead of having somebody go from the top and go all the way down and do the whole procedure that you've learned here, you'll see us do something like, tell them, we'll say, well, tap under your eye and tap under your arm and then tap on your thumb, for example, because that may be all they need. That's a shortcut we happen to know from things that are just apparent to us that are beyond the scope of
And
this
from
course.
experience,
Yep.
in working with people.
And, but what you need to know is this more thorough version would also include the same tapping we're talking about, you know, under the eye and under the arm and the thumb and whatever else it may be. And so you're going to actually be over-tapping in a case like
yes.
this, but you're going to be able to do the same things that you see on the audio, or hear on the audio tapes and see on the videotapes that we do.
Yeah.
It'll just take you a little bit longer time, that's all. You need
Right.
to know that. Now, that being said, we are going to switch for a moment to what I think is a delightful video clip, which is going to be the only video clip on these tapes which shows the thorough procedure from start to finish with somebody with a very intense water phobia. So stay tuned, it's coming up.
Enjoy.